Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you behind the curtain of every great achievement. Behind every fortune. Behind every invention, discovery, or breakthrough. Behind every product, company, career, or movement. You'll find one thing. Imagination. Before anything was built. Before anything was sold. Before anything changed the world. It was first imagined. You see, the mind is not just a recording device. It's a workshop. It's where raw ideas are shaped into form, where thought becomes blueprint and blueprint becomes reality. And the tool we use inside that mental workshop is imagination. Now, I must say imagination is not a child's toy. It's not something we outgrow. It's not reserved for poets or painters or musicians. It is the driving force behind every form of progress, in business, in science, in wealth creation, and in personal success. There are two types of imagination: synthetic and creative. Let me explain. Synthetic imagination is what you use when you rearrange old ideas, concepts, or facts into new combinations. It doesn't create, it restructures. It's what most entrepreneurs use when they take an existing product, add a new feature, find a new market, or solve an old problem in a new way. It's the imagination of business, of invention, of innovation. Then there's creative imagination. That's the deep current, the intuitive flash, the sudden, unexplainable idea that comes seemingly from nowhere. It's what gave birth to Edison's light, Ford's assembly line, and every revolutionary idea you can name. Creative imagination is where your subconscious mind connects with the infinite intelligence of the universe. It speaks in hunches, insights, feelings, visions. But here's the truth. Both forms of imagination are useless if you do not use them. Imagination is like a muscle, it strengthens with use and weakens with neglect. And most people? They abandon it after childhood. They stop creating. They stop asking, what if? They get trapped in facts, in routine, in repetition, and wonder why their lives never expand. But the ones who rise, the ones who build, the ones who change the world, they never stop imagining. They use imagination as a tool not for escape, but for design. They deliberately shape their thoughts into visions. And then they move toward those visions with plan and purpose. So let me ask you now. Are you using your imagination to move forward? Or have you let it collect dust while your potential sits untapped? Because everything you want, the business, the impact, the freedom, it already exists in the world of possibility. Your job is to imagine it clearly enough to bring it into form. Don't say, I'm not creative. You are. But creativity comes from use, from discipline, from daring to think bigger than your current circumstances. Today, we begin sharpening that ability. We'll train your imagination to serve your purpose, not distract you from it. We'll learn how to direct it with intent and use it to solve, build, and win. Because the moment you take your imagination seriously, you step into a new level of power. And from this point on, you are not just a thinker. You are a creator. Let's get to the point. Every dollar you will ever earn starts in your imagination. Not in your job. Not in your resume. Not in your education. It begins with an idea. The marketplace doesn't reward effort alone, it rewards value. And value begins when a man sees something others don't, imagines how to improve it, and takes steps to bring that vision to life. That's the process of wealth. Look at every fortune ever built. Behind it, you'll find a man or woman who dared to use their imagination differently. They saw a need. They saw an opportunity. They pictured something better, clearer, simpler, faster. And they moved on that picture. Imagination is the pipeline between your desire and its realization. Desire gives you the fuel. Imagination gives it form. Action gives it legs. But without imagination, your desire is just a feeling. It has no shape, no direction, no pull. That's why I tell you, if you're serious about success, you must learn to think in pictures. You must ask yourself, what does my goal actually look like? What kind of product, service, business, or message would bring it to life? How can I creatively deliver value to others in a way they've never experienced before? This isn't fantasy. This is the mental beginning of real wealth. You don't need to invent something the world has never seen. You need to see what others don't notice or see it from a better angle. That's synthetic imagination. It might be taking a product that already exists and presenting it in a new way. It might be combining two ideas that never belonged together before. It might be solving a small problem that no one thought was worth solving until you did. That's how businesses are born. That's how fortunes are created. That's how ideas move from abstract to income. Now, here's the mistake most people make. They wait for imagination to show up. They sit, hoping for some creative spark. But the truth is, you don't wait for imagination. You train it. You train it by asking better questions, exposing yourself to new information, giving yourself quiet space to think, writing ideas down, testing small versions of your thoughts in the real world. And yes, most of your first ideas will be weak. That's okay. That's part of the process. The more you use your imagination with intent, the more precise and useful it becomes. Eventually, you'll find the one idea that clicks, the one solution the market is hungry for, the one insight that ties your desire directly to value creation. And when you do, you'll look back and realize it wasn't magic. It wasn't chance. It was the result of deliberate, focused imagination applied to a clear goal. So don't dismiss your ideas. Write them, shape them, test them. Let your imagination work. Like a craftsman, not a dreamer. Because that's the difference between fantasy and fortune. Let's be honest. Most people don't lack imagination, they've just stopped feeding it. You cannot expect your mind to produce great ideas if you filled it with noise, fear, and distraction. You cannot demand creativity while surrounding yourself with boredom and routine. You cannot summon inspiration in a mental environment built for survival, not expansion. Imagination, like fire, needs fuel. It needs air. It needs ignition. And it needs space to grow. So here's the question. What are you feeding your imagination? Are you surrounding yourself with challenge, beauty, and vision? Are you exposing yourself to new ideas, great thinkers, bold strategies? Or are you recycling the same conversations, the same worries, the same limits? Because your mind becomes what you feed it, and your imagination reflects your inner diet. If you want imagination to work for you, you must nurture it like a precious tool. Here's how. 1. Expose yourself to the unfamiliar. Step out of your echo chamber. Talk to people outside your field. Read biographies of unusual lives. Study other industries. Get uncomfortable. New combinations come from new ingredients. 2. Study great thinkers. Imagination grows when you learn from those who used it well. Read Edison, Ford, Carnegie, Da Vinci. Study how they turned thoughts into results. Look not just at what they built, but how they thought. Their patterns will become your seeds. 3. Capture every idea. Carry a notebook. Write things down. Even if they seem silly, messy, or half-baked. Imagination often whispers. If you don't catch it, it passes. Train your brain to respect its own thoughts. 4. Create time to think. Don't just fill your schedule. Guard blank space. A walk. A quiet room. An early morning. No phone. No noise. Just you and your mind. Most people never pause long enough to hear their best ideas. 5. Ask bigger questions. Instead of asking, how can I get by? Ask, how can I multiply value? How could this be done better, faster, simpler? How would I solve this if I couldn't fail? Your imagination responds to the quality of your questions. If you treat imagination as a luxury, you will always run short. If you treat it as a tool, you will sharpen it daily. Now hear me. The great minds of the world were not born with bigger brains. They simply used theirs differently. They practiced. They stretched. They saw their imagination as a discipline, not a daydream. And that's what I want for you. Don't just wait for ideas. Make your life idea-rich. Build the habits, the environment, the thinking rituals that let imagination flow. And when it does, act on it. Refine it. Shape it until it serves your definite purpose. Because imagination, when trained and fed, becomes your greatest competitive edge. Let's talk now about something that most people never do. They dream, yes. They want more, yes. But they never take the time to translate that dream into something tangible. Something you can see, feel, organize, pursue. They never build the bridge between wanting and doing. That bridge, my friend, is imagination. It is the tool that transforms desire into direction. It is the method by which you take a vague longing and shape it into a specific result. You want more money. That's desire. But what form will it take? A business? Product? A system? You want to change your life. That's desire. But how? Through what path, what skill, what offering? Imagination gives shape to the abstract. It is where you design your strategy before the first step is taken. It's where you test possibilities in your mind before investing energy in the world. And let me tell you something. Every person who achieves anything of substance starts with an imagined outcome. Not a wish, not a hope, but a vision detailed enough to be planned and executed. If you cannot see it in your mind, you will not build it in your life. When I speak to people who feel stuck, they often tell me, I don't know what to do. But when I ask what they want, they can't describe it. No picture, no structure, just emotion and noise. That's why imagination must be trained. You must learn to take what you feel and give it form. So how do we do that? First, you get specific. If your desire is to be wealthy, ask how much, by when, through what. If your dream is freedom, define it. How does it look in daily life? If you want to create something, visualize who it helps, what it does, why it matters. Your mind must see the shape of what you're building. Even if the details aren't perfect yet, you must start forming the image. Second, turn that image into steps. What would have to happen to make that vision real? What resources are needed? What knowledge? What people? What tools? You're not guessing here. You're imagining with intent. Now, you may be thinking, but what if I'm wrong? Then you adjust. That's the beauty of imagination. You can redesign before you invest energy. You can reshape your approach as clarity grows. But what you cannot afford to do is sit in fog. You cannot build what you cannot describe. Most people wait for life to tell them what to do. But life responds to those who dare to imagine first. You must take your desire and pass it through the filter of imagination, so that it comes out the other side as something actionable, something real. And don't mistake this for fantasy. This is mental architecture. This is where your inner world lays the foundation for outer success. The most powerful plans you will ever create begin in stillness, in silence, in thought, in deliberate, focused imagination. So I challenge you today. Take one goal, picture it clearly, map it mentally, and begin the process of turning that picture into a plan. Because once you can see it, once you can describe it, once you can feel it before it happens, you've already begun to create it. And that, my friend, is where real progress starts. Turning obstacles into opportunity through imagination. Now let's talk about what stops most people. Not lack of talent, not lack of resources, not lack of time. The real enemy of progress is the inability to solve problems creatively. Because problems will come. They are not optional. They are part of the path. But how you respond to them, that's your choice. And that's where imagination becomes your greatest weapon. You see, most people hit a wall and stop. They say, this didn't work, and give up. They say, I don't know what to do, and go back to comfort. But the person who succeeds, the one who keeps moving, is the one who steps back, takes a deep breath, and says, what's another way? That one question, asked with focus and intent, unlocks more power than any degree or credential. Imagination gives you options. It helps you look at what appears to be a failure and say, how else can I approach this? It allows you to turn a dead end into a detour. It helps you turn a loss into a lesson, a barrier into a blueprint. Some of the greatest businesses in history were born from solving a problem nobody else could see differently. Some of the most powerful strategies emerged from someone saying, what if we try this instead? That's imagination in motion. It doesn't just help you dream. It helps you adapt. And in this fast-moving world, your ability to adapt creatively is more valuable than almost anything else. When others freeze, you think. When others complain, you design. When others break down, you build a new approach. That's not talent. That's trained imagination. Now let's be practical. Every time you face an obstacle, do this. Step 1. Pause. Step back from emotion. Step 2. Ask yourself, what else could this mean? What else could I try? Step 3. Picture multiple alternatives. Not just one. Let your mind stretch. Step 4. Choose one and test it quickly without fear of failure. Even if it doesn't work, you're learning. Even if it fails, you're gathering data. And eventually, one of those attempts becomes the breakthrough. But only if you keep your mind open. Rigid thinking kills results. Creative thinking resurrects momentum. Imagination is not soft. It is not optional. It is what keeps you moving when logic says stop. It is the mental tool that turns problems into puzzles. And puzzles into strategies. So the next time you feel stuck, don't say, I'm blocked. Say, it's time to imagine again. Let your mind ask better questions. Let your thoughts run down new paths. Let your inner architect get to work. Because the obstacle in front of you is not your enemy. It's your invitation to grow through innovation. And the more you practice this, the more automatic it becomes. Until one day, people will look at you and say, nothing seems to stop that person. But the truth will be simple. You just trained your imagination to serve you. Not only in times of inspiration, but especially in times of challenge. And that's what separates the wishful from the unstoppable. Imagination builds or destroys, you choose the direction. By now you understand that imagination is powerful. But here's what most people miss. That same power you can use to build a better life can just as easily be used to destroy it. Because imagination is neutral. It works in whatever direction you send it. And if you send it toward fear, limitation, or doubt, then it will work just as hard to make those things real. Let me give it to you straight. Every person alive uses their imagination every day. The only difference is whether they're using it on purpose or letting it run wild against them. You've seen it. The person who always imagines the worst. They picture failure before they even begin. They see rejection in every interaction. They visualize problems, disaster, embarrassment. And what happens? They hesitate. They shrink. They quit. Not because the world stopped them, but because they rehearsed defeat in their mind long before it arrived. That too is imagination, but turned in the wrong direction. If you continually imagine the worst, don't be surprised when you live in anxiety, doubt, and stagnation. So the question is not, do you have imagination? The question is, who is in control of it? Is it working for your goal or against your future? You must become the master of your inner imagery, because what you allow to take root in your imagination will eventually shape your beliefs, your behavior, and your results. When fear creeps in, imagination amplifies it. When doubt whispers, imagination adds color and detail. When someone says you can't, imagination builds the failure before you even try. But here's the good news. You can reverse it. You can take that same creative force and point it toward strength, progress, and purpose. You can picture yourself following through. You can imagine the people you'll help. You can see the goal achieved, the reward earned, the path completed. And the more vividly you imagine the right things, the faster your subconscious begins to believe them and act accordingly. Because your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's repeatedly imagined with emotion and detail. That's why athletes rehearse victories in their heads. That's why great speakers visualize their delivery before stepping on stage. That's why creators see the finished product long before the first step is taken. They are using imagination as a tool, consciously, deliberately, and repeatedly. And so can you. But it begins with awareness. You must become aware of what kind of mental pictures you've been painting. Are they filled with courage or hesitation? Do they support your future or undermine it? Do they inspire action or feed excuses? Once you see the pattern, you can change the direction. Train your imagination. Challenge it. Direct it. Make it your ally, not your saboteur. Because left alone, it will drift into fear. But with focus, it will drive you into purpose. And that choice, that direction, is yours to make every single day. When you have nothing, imagination becomes everything. Let me speak now to the person who says, but I don't have the resources. I don't have the money. I don't have the support. I don't have the education. You may not have those things today. But if you have imagination used with purpose, you already have what you need to begin. Because when you have nothing, imagination becomes everything. It becomes your capital, your startup fund, your hidden advantage. Every great fortune began in the same place. In the unseen world of thought, belief, and creative problem solving. You don't need to wait for circumstances to improve. You don't need to wait for someone to hand you a solution. You need to imagine one, then start building it with whatever you have. Do not underestimate the mind that refuses to stay stuck. I have seen people start with no connections, no experience, no formal education, but with an idea so clear, so focused, so emotionally charged, that they pulled together what they needed through sheer persistence and imagination. One saw an opportunity where others saw nothing. Another solved a simple problem no one paid attention to. Another looked at a crowded market and found a tiny gap to serve better. They used imagination not just to dream big, but to think smart. You can do the same. If you don't have funding, imagine ways to test your idea small. If you don't have a team, imagine how to automate, simplify, or trade skills. If you don't know the path, imagine the end result and work backward. Imagination helps you move from "I can't" to "what if I tried this?" And every time you do that, you train your mind to think like a builder. People wait for the perfect plan, the right time, the guarantee. But those who win, they move with what they have and imagine the rest into place. They let their vision guide their action. They let creativity fill in the gaps. They believe in possibilities others ignore. And slowly, the invisible becomes visible. Now let me be clear. This isn't about blind optimism. This isn't about pretending everything is easy. This is about choosing to think beyond your limitations. It's about asking yourself one simple but powerful question. If I had no excuse, what would I try? And then letting your imagination do the rest. Think of it this way. Your current circumstances are not your ceiling. They are just your starting line. And imagination is the tool that moves the finish line closer. Not by magic, but by creativity, clarity, and action. So don't wait until the stars align. Don't wait until you have everything in place. Use what's already yours, your ability to imagine something better. And let the vision fuel the steps you take. Because when others say, it's not possible, you'll be the one quietly building it anyway. That's what imagination makes possible. And that's how leaders, creators, and builders are made. Imagine your way into belief. Let's talk about belief. Not surface-level confidence. Not temporary motivation. I mean deep, unshakable belief in yourself and your ability to reach your goal. The kind of belief that holds when no one's clapping. When things don't go as planned. When results are slow. When doubt creeps in and whispers, you're not enough. How do you build belief like that? The answer is simple but rarely practiced. You imagine it over and over until it becomes real. You don't wait for belief to show up. You create it in your mind first. You see yourself succeeding before you do. You picture the actions, the effort, the follow-through. You see yourself overcoming the struggle. You rehearse your future self until it becomes familiar. Because what is belief, really? It's a repeated thought wrapped in emotion embedded through experience. And if you haven't yet had the experience, then imagination becomes your best tool to create it in advance. This isn't fantasy. This is mental preparation. This is psychological training. Athletes do it before every game. Pilots do it before every flight. Performers do it before every stage. Why shouldn't you do it before every important step in your life? You want to believe you can build the business? Close your eyes. See yourself taking action. See the deal being made. See the client saying yes. See the result delivered with excellence. And don't just see it once. Repeat it until your subconscious accepts it as familiar. That's how belief is built. Not by accident. Not by hoping. But by repeated exposure to the image of who you want to become. Most people do the opposite. They rehearse doubt. They imagine failure. They see themselves quitting, stalling, embarrassing themselves. And over time, that becomes belief too. A belief that limits. That weakens. That convinces them to play small. But you can flip that script. You can use the same imagination that once built fear to now build confidence. It starts today. You choose the scene. You write the mental script. You perform it with emotion, clarity, and frequency. Soon, your body starts acting in alignment. Your decisions become bolder. Your tone changes. Your actions follow your vision. And that right there is the magic of belief created through imagination. It's not fake. It's foundational. Because before you can build anything real in the world, you must first build it in your mind. And when belief takes root there, no setback can shake it. Make imagination a daily practice. Let me ask you something directly. If imagination is the force behind all achievement, if it turns desire into plans, and if it fuels belief and unlocks opportunity, then why do most people use it only by accident? Why do they wait for rare flashes of inspiration, instead of building a system for creative thinking? The answer is simple. They were never taught to take imagination seriously. It was treated like a childhood thing, like something artists or dreamers use. But not serious people, not professionals, not builders. And yet every successful person I've studied has a system. A routine that keeps their imagination sharp, available, and productive. So today, I challenge you to do the same. You must turn imagination into a habit. Not a hope. Not a once-in-a-while mental escape. A habit. Let me show you how. First, create space to think. Not scroll. Not react. Think. Even 10 minutes of quiet mental time each day, without distraction, can sharpen your creative mind more than hours of passive learning. Second, give your imagination a target. Don't just say, let's see what comes up. Ask questions like, what is one new way I could solve this? What's something I've never tried before? What if I started from scratch? How would I approach this? Specific prompts create specific breakthroughs. Third, visualize success in motion. Don't just see the finish line. See the steps. See yourself taking action, adjusting, improving. This isn't fantasy. This is mental rehearsal. It conditions your mind and body to move confidently. Fourth, write your ideas down. All of them. Good or bad. Big or small. Imagination whispers, and if you don't catch it, it's gone. A simple notebook, a voice memo, a digital folder, whatever works. The point is to treat your thoughts with respect. Fifth, review and act. Once a week, look over what your imagination gave you. Pick one thing. Test it. Try it. Put it into motion, even in a small way. This last step is where most people stop. They imagine, they even capture ideas. But they never act. But the ones who rise? They treat imagination like a strategy. They treat it as part of the work. They let it guide their next move, not replace it. Because an idea that sits in a notebook is still just a dream. But an idea you test, refine, and apply, that becomes real. And finally, protect your inputs. What you allow into your mind affects what your imagination has to work with. Surround yourself with possibility. With solution-oriented thinkers. With books, ideas, and people who stretch you. Because imagination cannot thrive in a mental environment filled with limitation. So let's be clear. You don't need more talent. You don't need more luck. You need a stronger daily relationship with your own imagination. Feed it. Train it. Use it. Every day. And soon others will call you visionary. They'll ask how you always seem to find the right idea. How you keep moving forward. How you create what they never saw coming. And you'll know the truth. You just made imagination part of your routine. And let it serve your mission. Your future is built in the workshop of your mind. Let's bring this home. We've talked about what imagination is. We've talked about how it works. We've explored how it turns desire into action. How it creates belief. How it solves problems. And how it builds momentum where there once was none. But now the question is simple. Will you use it? Because here's the truth. Everything you want, every goal, every dream, every breakthrough, already exists in one place. Your imagination. It's the workshop where plans are formed. It's the bridge between wishing and doing. It's the internal space where you can create without permission. Test without fear. Build before the world believes. And you can access it anytime. Right now. Wherever you are. With whatever you have. No one can take it from you. No one can restrict it. No one can outwork you in the world of imagination except you. You see, most people spend their lives reacting. They respond to circumstances. They wait for the perfect moment. They ask for clarity from the outside world. But those who achieve, they create clarity from within. They imagine the result. They build the picture. They rehearse the future. And then they follow it step by step until it becomes real. You have that power. Not someday. Not if you're lucky. Now. But it begins with a decision. The decision to take imagination seriously. The decision to practice it daily. The decision to turn ideas into plans. Plans into steps. And steps into results. So what do you want? Not in theory. Not in fantasy. In reality. Define it. See it. Feel it. Then build it in your mind first. The stronger the image, the stronger the pull. The clearer the vision, the faster the action. The more you use your imagination, the more natural it becomes. Until one day, what once felt impossible feels inevitable. Not because it was easy, but because you trained your mind to see beyond your limits. And once you've seen what's possible, you won't settle for less. So here's what I want you to remember. Imagination is not escape. It's direction. It's not fantasy. It's design. It's not a luxury. It's a necessity. Treat it that way. Use it with purpose. Use it with faith. Use it to build the life that's calling to you from the inside out. Because your imagination already knows who you could be. It's waiting for you to act like it. And when you do, when you build what you first saw in the workshop of your mind, the world won't be able to look away.